Morning, my friends. Shapuzit. I trust you all good. I have an interesting topic to share with you guys this morning. There's a good into that we overlook, ne? And I'm not justifying bullshit, but it's just an angle that I've come to realize, and maybe would like to hear what's your opinion about it, and see if you've actually thought about it from this perspective. I had my son over this weekend. Yeah, man. And I've been absent in my son's life for most part, unfortunately. Um, and only now that he's a teenager, me and him, I think it's fate that's bringing us together. And, fate to me, I think is God's work. Yeah, but because it's a coincidence that it's actually happening more than my efforts. I won't lie. Yeah, man. So it happened to Gutinje, it's happening. Ogutinje, I moved to a place where he's nearby, and um, it's just, it's conveniently working in our favor to be, um, closer together because I'm now distant from my other part of the family. So I'm kind of like alone in the space where I am. And he's the person that is sort of reaching out and coming through. And I'm happy to embrace that. Actually, I feel honored to, my son, I have access to him like that because other men by Vanilla for having not been there, punish them for having not been there for the greater part. I mean, I feel blessed with Nkulunkulu has given me an opportunity. My son doesn't hold any grudges and hasn't got any resentment towards me, and his side of the family is also very supportive of our unity. Yeah, but so without talking too much about my son's personal life, I'm very open about my own, because I'm like that, you know what I mean. I'm an open book, and I like to talk about things rather than hide things. I believe the power of sin lies in its secrecy, and yeah, even though it's out in the open, then nobody can use it against you because you don't hold it sort of in secret type thing. So I realized I don't know how to be a father, and perhaps that's what I've been avoiding. And I'm not again saying I'm making excuses, and I think it's supposed to come naturally. Maybe others will argue that it comes naturally to be a father. It's not something that you get taught. Though I don't know what to teach him. I don't know what to say to him. I don't know what guidance to give him because I didn't get taught anything. I didn't get guided. I didn't receive any teachings from my father. I know, okay, if I were to practice the same kind of parenting style that my father used on me, I'm going to wreck the boy. Like my dad wrecked me, So how do I then, like, do I read books? How do I become a good dad? Because I don't know how to be. Honestly, I don't. All that I know, is like I even avoid, uba nencosi to be honest. And I had this conversation with my best friend. It's easy to, and most men just send money in and it's easier that way. It's very easy to do that. But to be a father and connect, share guidance and wisdom, what guidance, what wisdom. So we get it. I'd like to know from books. I don't know, but okay, perhaps let's say it's from books because I'm looking for an solution, not excuses. So if there are books that can teach us how to be fathers and men and what to say to our sons and what knowledge and wisdom can we impart on, where do we get those books? Please share with us. Yeah, man. Because honestly, I was like Intwanam seems to even be more mature than I am. He even seems to know more than I. We were cooking together. The guy can even cook better than me. He spent so much time alone growing up. He's solid as a man, and his reasoning is on a level I think even above mine. Yeah, but so it was such an eye opener to realize, I am that not very useless, but um, in in ill-equipped to impart wisdom and knowledge to my boys, and it's kind of scary. And when I think about it, actually, I realized something that I've lived all my life. To my father as a role model, and my dad was my hero, for a long time. And I'm Kulum Baba Mugabe. I love my dad, by the way. I know it doesn't sound as if like it, but I love my dad a lot, and I loved him throughout my life. I fought many of my dad's battles. My dad ushonele wakhe because of me. I took my father from living in my killer and brought him back home directly and indirectly. So anybody that wants to claim something else is lying. Is talking shit actually. Yeah, man. Although yes, there will be people that want to claim royalties who automatically played a part to important in bringing my dad home. I did that. So anyway, people that know my personal story will have an idea what I'm talking about. But anyway, so when I was a young man, I remember in school, before we went to these Model C schools, but Safunde St. Peter up at a period, I think it was grade 2. Yeah. And then I was at B. And then I started school at 4 years old. I don't know why they did that, but anyway. So I like a baby, And I remember they were asking us, what do we want to do when we grow up? And I've never been so confused. And then I went home, everyone was saying, like firemen, policemen in. But I've always been earnest, so I was like, I don't want to be none of that. So I couldn't answer, so I went back home, and then, in fact, they asked first, what do our parents do? Yeah, man. And I didn't know what my parents did, yeah, man, because it's not a career to be a sales lady, and my mom was one at Trudeau's at the time, and my 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 dad was an entrepreneur businessman. He was a business owner, and that was not a popular thing in class. It was very unique. So I had to go and ask him, Dad, what do you do? And he's like, I'm a businessman. Tell him I'm a businessman. My father's a businessman. Okay. I didn't even understand that at the time. It was a status thing. It was tops. I just felt kind of like a bit shitty. My dad, he doesn't have a real proper career. Neither does my mom. And all these people, I can see they had to go to school, they learned it. The teachers, my dad and mom was a teacher, my dad is a doctor, and they mostly were people with qualifications. So for the greater part of my life, because my dad is a hero, I understood school was not important for me. I knew that I don't have to follow school because I want to be like my dad, and my dad is a well-renowned entrepreneur. He's famous, he's well liked, well known, well respected, and he's a shot caller. My dad was a shot caller, especially when I was young. Like the guy was prominent in Soweto. Yeah, but we had this big lighting firm in Orlando West, and my dad was a top shelf, like top tier guy. So always in suits. So I always wanted to be a suit. And if you can look back into my profile, you'll see it. I've always followed in my dad's footsteps, which didn't require schooling, and it required quick thinking, to get knowledge of sales and marketing, which I ultimately did, and become an entrepreneur. And I did exactly that. And once we figured out, and then realized the person that I've been trying to copy, to be like, was my dad. And I go, Dad, I've got a firm now. I've got my own insurance brokerage. I've got a nice office in Soweto, blah, 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 blah. It's like, oh, okay. And realized that he didn't even give a rat's ass ukuthi ngiyenzani, or how far did I come, how did I did it. Couldn't care less. Yeah, right. So we have and then I just lost interest. Here I am thinking, all these years I'm chasing after this gentleman, and then I want to be like him, and then eventually I get to exactly like what he did, how he did it. Just obviously not in lighting, because he said lighting is dead, and lighting, because I wanted to continue where my dad left off. I wanted to continue in lighting, so he spoke against that. It discouraged me around that, and he was more about corporate, but I had already made up my mind that I want to be like him. So the corporate, I would go into these major corporate organizations, but I wanted to be like him because I business, you're your own boss, you can do whatever the fuck you want, like he did. Yeah, but so throughout my life, I realized I've always like looked up to my father. And I don't think he realized that I was following in his footsteps. Maybe if he did, he would have stopped me in certain things. Yeah, but because I did a lot of things exactly like him. My parenting style also at some point being shy, you know, I always used to like to try to measure up to him because my dad was quite a Casanova and he used to be proud of it and he spoke about it a lot. So to gain his respect, I always would try to prove to him, I'm Sadman Tombazan and I can have as many as I want and type thing like that. You know, I can have kids like he had, lots of kids with different women. I did that, you know. So a lot of it, I realized with the guys, Tina, we are who we are because of the role models and the leaders that we had for the greater part. Yeah, but and we need to bring this subject under a magnifying glass. I'm a cheater. See the way Singapore, there's a history that has gotten us here, and we need to undo all of this. Yeah, somehow, we need to unlearn and relearn a new way. Yeah, but and we won't unless we actually come to terms with the fact that this is where we are, this is what we've learned, and this is all garbage, and start to rubbish all that and start a common path. Because I think about how I grew up a lot and try to understand where things could have gone right and didn't go right, and things could have gone wrong, and so forth. Yeah, but and I picked up also another thing, even when going to school, I didn't know for the whole part. I was a smart kid at school and made grasp very quickly. So I could like fathom quicker than most kids. That's why they started me school so early. I think that they started me at 4 because when I come back, it makes sense that I was about 4 years old when I started school. So because I was that quick kid, like I used to catch on very quickly. They thought that would be the best thing. That thing is gonna fuck around with my thing. They started me too prematurely. So, but when in school, I didn't understand why I was doing all of this, why I was here, learning all this irrelevant shit. Because what I wanted as a career, what I wanted to ultimately be like my dad, and my dad had no background in schooling. He was doing very well, better than all these guys. But then was my mom. So schooling was not in my background. So it didn't make sense for me to be in school. So I went to school throughout these years, bored as hell, knowing that this thing is not for me. This is not what I want. Yeah, but and the home environment was not conducive for schooling anyway, because the home environment was extremely toxic and hostile. So there was no way to study there. Lounge every day after school. To mama, tonic, soda water every single day. And when they leave in the evenings, that's TV time, then the assault, my dad is now drunk. Then it starts a different type of assault where he's yelling and shouting and calling you every 5 minutes. So there was my younger brother, guys, if you want to compare me to Mdana was taken out of that environment and placed in boarding school to protect him from that. Yeah, but I was left to actually, with that environment throughout my entire schooling. Yeah, but, and it was a hostile home environment. Yeah, but up until teenager, then I came up with a way of actually coping through it, and is to numb myself from the environment. I used to think, I'll be drunk to be able to escape my reality. And that's how several years later I adopted eating alcoholism as a coping mechanism and a lifestyle, and ultimately nearly became a full-blown alcoholic. In fact, became full-blown alcoholic. I was at the stage when I decided to quit, where if I don't drink, then I start to get like I convulse, like fits almost. I saw my father get to that stage, and it's hectic, guys. So the moral of the story, actually, not so that I don't take forever like I normally do, is that I want us to have conversations around how we then become better gens and better fathers to our kids, and come to a realization that we for a long time couldn't be and avoided being men, fathers, leaders. identify things that we need to do on a daily basis to equip ourselves with skills to become fathers, to become leaders, parents, role models to younger people and our children especially. Yabona, I hope ukuthi ngifakile yonke into ebengifuna ukuyifaka because there's so much that I'd love, so much more that I love to share. So now that I've never been able to finish anything that I start. So for the first time now, I'm actually working on my audiobook, which will make better sense. And I've been singing about this for years, and I could never really bring myself to it because it's kind of traumatic and it's got a lot. It takes a lot out of me. But I've started it now, and I'm employing AI to also help me with that. So it's kind of like better. So I'm now starting to do that. I struggle a lot with attention, that ADHD thing, which I think also has a lot to do with my home environment and my upbringing, where I couldn't really be at peace type thing. So my mind is all over the place, all over the show every single time. So the only time I've been calm really in life is when I'm drunk. So now that I don't have alcohol to distract me as a coping mechanism, now I'm sober. I'm doing AA, and AA is doing wonders for me. And yeah, man. So now at least I can maybe finish something that I started for a change. Yeah, but yeah, I hope you from this one, guys. Please share comments. I'd like to hear maybe that. How did you guys do it? How do you guys become normal? Did you guys like grow up in normal homes, situations? I don't know. Are you guys like, do you find whatever how you lived at home was made you like the people that you are? Because a lot of you guys I can see are quite sober and doing well. I feel like I don't even understand how could I have been? I was expected to be normal coming out of such a toxic, dysfunctional, abnormal situation, and almost the worst of its kind. You know how how do you guys become normal and like coming out of such situations? Please let me know. I'd love to know so I can maybe understand better. Thank you very much for listening to my video, guys.